Have you ever wondered why some people don't need to raise their voice or even speak a word, yet their absence can shake a room more than their presence ever did? Why is it that when they pull back, suddenly everyone leans in? This is not a trick. It's not manipulation. It's the power of intentional silence. And today, we're going to talk about why disappearing not out of fear, but out of self-awareness might just be the most powerful move you'll ever make. Main body, natural storytelling, psychological depth. There are people who never beg for attention. They never fight to be understood. They don't argue to prove a point or seek validation from others. They simply withdraw quietly, without noise, without drama, and yet their silence echoes louder than a scream. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. People grow uncomfortable, start questioning, wondering, did I do something wrong? Why are they so distant? Are they mad at me? What they're really experiencing is a loss of control. Now imagine if you started doing that. If instead of instantly reacting when someone triggered you, you paused, you waited, you chose silence over explanation, distance over drama, what do you think would happen? You see, the moment you stop being emotionally available to the world, to everyone's expectations, to every demand something powerful happens, people panic. Not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer predictable. And people rely on your predictability to control you emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually. Power of withdrawal. The day you decide to step back, really step back, is the day the game changes. People who once believed they understood you suddenly realize they knew nothing at all. Not your thoughts, not your values, not your strength. Because for years, they only knew the version of you that was available. Available to please, to respond, to agree, to say yes even when your soul screamed no. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. But let me flip that for you. Everything that irritates others when you withdraw reveals more about them than about you. Emotional manipulation uncovered. The truth is, many people in your life aren't with you because of you. They're with you because of how you serve their needs. And every time you say yes just to keep the peace, every time you respond immediately out of fear of being rejected, you abandon yourself just a little more. That growing exhaustion you feel at the end of the day, that quiet frustration, that unexplained emptiness, it's not burnout. It's self-abandonment disguised as kindness. You've given too much of yourself to people who don't even know how to sit with your silence. This isn't about cutting people off. It's about finally choosing yourself. The prison of availability. From a young age, you were taught that being good meant being available. Quick to help, quick to respond, quick to say yes. And the more accessible you were, the more love you believed you deserved. But here's a hard truth. Excessive availability isn't a sign of virtue. It's a cage. And the more you think that being emotionally accessible will win you love, loyalty, or respect, the more you become a tool, an emotional vending machine, a support line people dial when they need comfort, then hang up when they're done. That's not connection. That's consumption. The illusion of presence. You wear a mask, don't you? Jung called it the persona, the false identity we wear to be accepted, to be liked, to feel worthy. You smile when you're drowning. You reply to texts when you're exhausted. You explain, defend, justify as if your very existence needs approval. But the more you live on someone else's stage, the more invisible you become on your own. Being constantly available isn't love. It's fear. fear of being forgotten, fear of being left behind, fear of being you without apology. The cost of being too present. Here's what no one tells you. The more people get used to you being there all the time, the more they stop seeing you. You become background noise, a habit, predictable. And let me tell you something brutal. People don't respect what they don't have to earn. And no one values what is always given. The cruelest part, the more available you are, the less they see you, because to them you're not a person. You're a function, validation, attention, emotional comfort on demand. But when you finally pull away, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, those same people will accuse you of changing. You didn't change. You just stopped serving. Who deserves you? So take a moment right now, breathe, and ask yourself, who really deserves your time, your presence, your energy, and perhaps more importantly, who truly deserves your absence? But wait, don't answer just yet, because before you can answer that question honestly, you have to understand the deeper root of why you give yourself away so easily. Setting up for the next episode, why do we react so fast? Why do we justify, please, explain on instinct? The answer lies in something deeper than behavior. It's about energy. Psychic energy, as Jung called it, the currency of your inner world. And if you don't learn how to guard it, to invest it wisely, to preserve it like the sacred force it is, then someone somewhere will use it to control you. Every single time. But not anymore. Not if you stay with me. In the next part, we'll dive into this energy, what it is, why you keep giving it away, and how to finally protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. In the last part, we talked about how being constantly available to others is not a sign of love, but a form of self-abandonment. We peeled back the mask of emotional availability and saw how much of our energy is given away simply because we're afraid of not being needed. But what if I told you this pattern runs even deeper? What if it isn't just behavior, but energy, psychic energy that you're unconsciously bleeding out? Body, introducing Jung's concept of energy. Carl Jung didn't see the human psyche as a mechanical switchboard, reacting to input and spitting out emotion. No, he believed the mind was an energy system, delicate, dynamic, and always consuming something. Each thought, each reaction, each word you speak draws from a finite pool of inner energy. So the real question is, are you choosing where your energy flows? Or are you letting the world decide for you? Every knee-jerk reaction, every time you get pulled into defending yourself unnecessarily, costs you. When you argue with someone who only wants to provoke you, when you reply to criticism that doesn't even deserve your attention, when you try to gain approval from someone who has never truly seen your value, you're spending your energy on things that do not nourish you, that do not grow you, that do not love you back. The trap of wasted energy. Jung was clear. What you resist persists. Let that settle. The more you fight meaningless battles, the more you entangle yourself in them. The harder you try to fix what's not yours to fix, the more broken you become. People who feel drained emotionally aren't necessarily weak. They are misdirected. And what happens to someone who lives in a constant state of depletion? They become open, soft, unprotected, vulnerable, and vulnerability without awareness invites all the wrong people in. The predators of your exhaustion. Manipulative people can smell exhaustion like wolves smell blood in the snow. They see you explaining yourself too much. They see you unable to say no. They see you rushing to solve everyone's crisis and they feed off that. They don't have to manipulate you directly. They just have to keep you reacting. And when your energy is scattered, your attention split, your center lost, you become easy prey. Jung believed that a healthy mind contains this energy. This means learning how to say no without feeling guilty. It means choosing silence not because you're afraid to speak, but because you no longer need to explain yourself to people who aren't listening. Your energy is your authority. True strength is not the ability to react. It's the wisdom to know when to act and if it's worth acting at all. That kind of control only comes from knowing yourself, from observing your emotional triggers, from asking, why did that text make me feel anxious? Why did that comment from someone I barely know steal my peace? Each moment like that is a leak, a crack in your foundation. You lose sleep over a conversation that ended hours ago. You rehearse what you should have said. You ruminate over the way someone treated you. This isn't reflection, it's leakage. You're giving energy to ghosts, keeping them alive through your attention. Energy creates presence or absence. Psychic energy is like an aura. When it's well kept, you become magnetic. You walk into a room and people feel your presence even if you don't say a word. But when your energy is scattered, you become invisible, reactive, fragile. And let's be honest, the world is not kind to those who give in too easily. So take inventory. What causes you to snap without thinking? What makes your heart race and your throat tighten? Those are the points where your energy is escaping. That's where the work begins. Not so that you can become distant or cold, but so that you can be selective, so that you can govern yourself. The danger of projections? Jung warned us about something deeper than manipulation projection. You see, when you preserve your energy and become less reactive, you disrupt people's ability to project their narratives onto you. And that terrifies them. Why? Because now they have to see themselves without using you as a mirror. Let's be real. Much of what others expect from you is not about you. It's about their image of you. Their story, the version of you they need to exist so they don't have to face their own mess. That friend who only calls when they're in crisis. That partner who only praises you when you solve their problems. That coworker who respects you only when you're available 24/7. They're not connecting with your soul. They're clinging to a role you've been conditioned to play. The silent weapon, guilt. And why do you keep playing it? Because of one silent, invisible weapon? Guilt. It doesn't scream. It whispers. You owe them this. You can't disappoint them. You'll be selfish if you say no. And so you keep showing up, keep smiling, keep serving, even as your own soul starts to dim. But here's the kicker. The manipulator doesn't have to control you. They just need you to keep reacting the same way. That's it. Same script, same you. Until you choose to break the loop. Breaking the loop, when you stop reacting, the game ends. When you say now without explanation, when you respond with silence, when you walk away, not in anger, but in peace, you break the mask they've projected onto you. And suddenly, they don't know who you are anymore. Worse, they now have to face who they are. And trust me, most people aren't ready for that. Your silence equals their discomfort. Your silence reveals their noise. Your boundaries expose their dependency. Your peace shakes the chaos they've been trying to distract themselves from. That's why the moment you stop performing, you'll face criticism, accusations, emotional guilt trips. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've stopped being their emotional crutch. Jung once wrote, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's exactly what happens when you stop giving yourself away. Closing setup for page 3. In the next part, we'll dive even deeper into how guilt and emotional availability are used as silent tools of control. You'll learn why the most powerful thing you can do is to protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. In the last part, we uncovered how much of your life has been shaped by your unconscious reactions, by the projections of others, and the silent manipulations that drain you. But what happens when you stop reacting altogether? What happens when you step out of the narrative that others try to write for you? This is where your real power begins. And it starts in silence. Body. The moment you withdraw, things shift. When you withdraw, truly withdraw, not to manipulate, not to punish, but to protect your energy, the dynamic changes instantly. Suddenly, the shadows that others have kept hidden begin to rise. Not yours, theirs. Because your silence acts like a mirror. And that mirror, once held still, reflects everything they've avoided in themselves. For those who have used your presence as an escape route, who relied on your reactions to avoid facing their own chaos, your absence is unbearable. They feel abandoned, misunderstood, even betrayed. But the truth is, they were never truly connected to you. They were connected to what you gave them: your attention, your empathy, your usefulness. Are you ready for the silence that follows? But now the question shifts inward. Are you ready? Are you prepared to face the silence that follows the rupture? Because silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's raw. Sometimes it's a lonely, echoing space where doubts and old wounds resurface, where you wonder if protecting your peace is worth being misunderstood, where you fear being seen as distant, selfish, or cold. But stay in that silence, because something sacred is happening. That's where your true power begins to form. The misunderstood strength of silence. We live in a world that glorifies volume. Speak louder, respond faster, be seen, be heard. Win the argument. Defend your truth. Prove your point. But what if the most powerful statement you could ever make was made in complete silence? Not silence born of fear, but silence born of awareness. A silence that says, I will not waste my energy here. I do not owe you my reaction. My peace is not up for debate. Jung's view of silence and lucidity. Jung did not see silence as empty or passive. He saw it as a fertile ground for psychological rebirth of space, where truth blooms once the noise dies down. When you stop reacting, something magical happens. You begin to observe. You notice pattern cycles of self-sabotage, games of manipulation, emotional loops that once felt invisible. Your mind becomes clearer, your inner vision sharper. And lucidity is dangerous. It's dangerous to those who can't exist without controlling others. It's threatening to those who thrive in chaos. It's destabilizing to people who've built their identity around your compliance. Silence breaks control. Ever notice how some people panic when you stop replying? When you don't defend yourself? When you don't justify your boundaries? It's not because they miss you. It's because your silence breaks the script. When you're talking, explaining, defending, you're still playing the game. But when you go silent, you change the rules. And suddenly, they can't predict you. They can't access you. They can't use your words as weapons. True silence is mastery. True silence is not the absence of words. It's the mastery of energy. It's the quiet refusal to be dragged into every storm that passes. It's saying, I see you, but I don't have to join you. I hear you, but I don't need to respond. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the sacred process of becoming who you truly are. You cannot hear your inner voice if the world is always shouting. And you cannot grow if you're constantly dancing to other people's emotional rhythms. But silence comes with a cost. Let's be honest. Silence has a price. It will cost you relationships that were built on your emotional labor. It will distance you from those who only saw you through the lens of their projections. It will make some people call you cold, detached, arrogant, but none of that is about you. It's about their discomfort. Because now they are forced to face their own noise without your voice to drown it out. And for many, that's terrifying. Every word is an energetic investment. As you mature, you become more selective with your words. Why? Because you realize that every sentence is an energetic investment. And not everyone deserves a share in your truth. Sometimes silence isn't withdrawal. It's sovereignty. It's what happens when you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Your silence says, I am no longer playing a role in your story. I choose to write my own. Silence reveals more than words ever could. Silence is not passive. It's revealing. When you stop justifying your absence, you begin to see who was only there for your presence. When you stop filling the gaps in every conversation, you learn who values your words and who only value their convenience. The most powerful silence is not the one that unsettles others. It's the one that heals you. It's the silence that returns you to yourself. That frees you from the addiction to being needed. That restores your energy and rebuilds your inner peace. And this is the kind of silence we must begin to practice. Because reclaiming your energy isn't just about shutting the world out. It's about learning how to use your energy wisely, where it goes, where it stays, and where it should never be wasted again. That's what we'll explore in the next part. Because awareness without action is just another form of self-deception. Real transformation begins the moment you choose to be consciously unavailable, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. In the previous part, we explored how silence isn't just absence, it's power. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop giving yourself away to every emotional tug of war, something in you begins to realign. You're not disappearing. You're reappearing to yourself. And that's where this journey truly begins. You begin to hear your own voice again. When you remove the world's noise from your mind, when you stop living for the gaze of others, something profound happens. You begin to hear your own voice again. Not the version of you filtered through expectations. Not the self who bends and breaks just to keep the peace, but the you that lives at the center of your being. This is where identity is rebuilt, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Signs of your growth? Want to know if you're truly evolving? Pay attention. Notice who begins to distance themselves when you become more reserved. Notice who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting. Notice who accuses you of changing when you finally start protecting yourself. These aren't signs of failure. They're evidence. Proof that you are breaking free. And make no mistake, freedom always comes with a cost. The discomfort of becoming unavailable. At first, being unavailable feels strange. You'll feel guilty. You'll wonder if you're being too cold. You'll hear others say you've changed, you're being selfish, you're too harsh. But remember, this is the voice of a system that only worked when you place yourself second. And when that system begins to collapse, both you and the people around you feel it. Why? Because your old self, the one that served, explained, gave, apologized at us, being dismantled, and not everyone will celebrate that. Especially those who benefited from the version of you who never said no. Saying no to the world is saying yes to yourself. But here's what matters. When you say no to the world, you're finally saying yes to yourself. When you step away from toxic environments, you affirm that your peace is worth more than superficial approval. When you stop explaining your decisions, you begin to earn quiet respect, even if only from a few. You'll discover that not everyone can handle your presence once your emotions are no longer available for their control. Some people depended on your chaos to feel like they had control. And when you withdraw, they unravel. The rupture, the silence, and the solitude. And so comes the rupture, the break, the distance, that moment when it feels like you're losing everything, but you're not losing. You're liberating. After the distance comes the silence, an uncomfortable echoing silence that asks hard questions. Did I do the right thing? Am I being too harsh? Am I pushing away people who actually cared? And yet, as time passes, the silence starts to soften. It cleanses, it calms, it heals. Solitude of the strong. Then comes solitude, but not the kind that feels like loneliness. This solitude is a fullness, not an absence. It is the solitude of the strong, the solitude of someone who no longer betrays themselves just to feel needed. In the space where confusion used to live, clarity begins to grow. Where anxiety used to sit, peace quietly takes its place. Where desperation once clung, strength begins to root itself. You begin to feel whole not because someone completes you, but because you finally stopped abandoning yourself. Jung and the sacred solitude. Carl Jung described this process as individuation, the journey of becoming your truest self. He said it required distancing from the collective, disidentifying from the masks, and yes, walking alone for a while. But this walk is not a retreat from the world. It's a return to yourself. It's the moment you stop reacting and start creating. When you are no longer shaped by circumstance, but begin shaping your own reality from the inside out. Some people won't know what to do with the new you. And here's something raw but true. Some people never wanted you. They only wanted the role you played in their life. Now that you've stepped out of that role, they don't know what to do with you. And that's not your problem. Yes, you will lose people, but you will find yourself. Yes, you will step away from certain places, but you will reconnect with your essence. Yes, you will be misunderstood, but at last, you will be respected. Because when you are no longer available for everything, you become rare. And what is rare is valuable. The true rebirth, don't mistake this transformation for isolation. This is rebirth. You're entering a new life. One where you are no longer available for crumbs of attention, where you no longer play games just to feel seen, where you stop mistaking drama for connection. Now, you accept only what matches your peace, your values, and your wholeness. The final realization, and if you've come this far, it's because some part of you is already ready for this. Some part of you has realized that being loved means nothing if it requires you to abandon yourself. Real love begins with choosing you, even if it means walking alone for a while. Closing CTA, deep and gentle call to action. Now let me ask you, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, or even hated if that's the price of your inner freedom? Are you ready to stop apologizing for choosing your peace? If this message spoke to something deep in you, write in the comments, I choose my peace. Let's see how many of us are stepping into this transformation, this sacred solitude, this sovereign life. And don't forget to keep watching the next video. It's more important than you might imagine. I'll see you there.